30 minutes. That's all it takes to completely destroy a person's life. 30 minutes ago, Elena was the pillar of this mansion. The only one who knew Sophia was terrified of the dark because of nightmares about her mother's car accident. The only one who knew Anna was allergic to peanuts and needed Russian lullabies whenever she was scared. The only one the twin girls called Mama Lena. 30 minutes later, she was dragging a tattered suitcase down the cobblestone streets of Beacon Hill, her hands still wearing yellow rubber gloves crusted with soap suds. They hadn't even given her time to take them off. Get the hell out of my house. Now. That was the command of Nikolai Volkov, the mafia boss known as the Ghost of Boston, the man she had served without a single complaint for 2 years, caring for his motherless daughters as if they were her own flesh and blood. But why? Why was a loyal nanny thrown out like a common criminal? The answer lay with the woman standing behind that second-floor window, sipping her wine and smiling in triumph, and with 2 little girls who were about to do something insane to save their second mother. Mama Lena. The scream tore through the quiet afternoon of the upscale neighborhood. Elena turned around. The blood in her veins froze solid. Sophia and Anna were running toward her, in the middle of the street, blood streaming down their hands from the shattered window glass, blind to the black SUV roaring toward them from around the curve. And their father, the most powerful mafia boss on America's East Coast, was chasing after his daughters with a face twisted in terror. For the first time in his life, Nikolai Volkov was completely powerless. 45 minutes earlier, the study of the Volkov mansion smelled of old leather, aged whiskey, and power. It was a room designed to intimidate. Dark oak panels lined the walls from floor to ceiling. Leather-bound books that no one ever read filled the shelves. A crystal chandelier hung overhead, casting cold light onto the Persian rug below. Victoria Harrington sat perched on the edge of Nikolai's mahogany desk, her legs crossed elegantly beneath her cream silk dress. She swirled a glass of white wine between her manicured fingers, watching the liquid catch the light. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, the smile of a predator who had cornered her prey. In the center of the room stood Elena. She looked small against the grandeur of the study. Her navy blue uniform was still damp at the sleeves. Yellow rubber gloves covered her hands, soap suds drying white on the latex. She had been scrubbing the bathroom tiles when the summons came. They hadn't even let her finish. My diamond necklace is missing. Victoria's voice was soft, almost bored. The one Nikolai gave me for our engagement, worth $60,000. It was on my nightstand this morning. Elena felt her stomach drop. 15 minutes ago, you were cleaning our bedroom. Victoria took a slow sip of wine. No one else entered that room, just you. Miss Victoria, I swear on my life. Elena's voice trembled but held steady. I have worked in this house for 2 years. I have never taken anything that doesn't belong to me. You can search my room, search my bag. I have nothing to hide. Victoria laughed, a delicate, crystalline sound that held no warmth. Of course you'd say that. She set down her wine glass and stood, walking slowly toward Elena. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floor like a countdown. But let's talk about something interesting, shall we? Victoria stopped inches from Elena's face, close enough for Elena to smell her perfume. Roses and something darker underneath, something rotten. Your brother, Ivan, isn't it? Victoria tilted her head, studying Elena like a specimen under glass. Stage 4 kidney failure. Needs a transplant within 6 months or he dies. The surgery costs what, 50,000? 60? Elena's blood ran cold. How do you know about I know everything about the people in my house? Victoria's smile widened. A nanny's salary is what, 800 a week? How many years would it take to save that much? 10? 20? She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Your brother doesn't have 20 years, does he? Elena's hands shook inside the rubber gloves. She thought of Ivan lying in that hospital bed, his skin gray, his eyes hollow. She thought of the dialysis bills piling up on her kitchen table, the notices from the collection agency, the desperate prayers every night. Temptation is an ugly thing. Victoria stepped back, picking up her wine again. Even the most loyal dog will bite when it's starving. I am not a thief. Elena's voice cracked. I would never. The double doors of the study burst open. Nikolai Volkov stood in the doorway. His tall frame filled the space, blocking the light from the hallway. He wore a black suit, no tie, the top button of his shirt undone. His jaw was tight. His eyes were ice. Those eyes swept across the room. From Victoria's tear-streaked face, tears that had appeared the moment the door opened to Elena standing frozen in the center of the rug. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask for Elena's side. He simply looked at her the way executioners look at the condemned. And Elena knew, in that moment that her fate had already been decided. Nikolai Volkov was not a man who asked questions. He was a man who gave orders, a man who decided fates with a single phone call, a man whose name made hardened criminals lower their eyes, and powerful politicians return his calls within minutes. At 37 years old, he controlled the largest criminal empire on the East Coast, shipping ports, underground casinos, networks that stretched from Boston to Miami. They called him the Ghost because his enemies had a habit of disappearing without a trace. Tonight, exhaustion carved deep lines into his face. He had spent the last 72 hours managing a war with the Castellano family. 3 of his warehouses had been hit, 2 of his men were dead. The truce negotiations had collapsed just hours ago. His mind was a battlefield. He had no room for domestic problems. Nikolai! Victoria flew across the room and threw herself into his arms. Her body shook with sobs. Real tears streamed down her cheeks, tears she had perfected in front of the mirror over many years. Oh God, Nikolai, I'm so scared. Her voice broke beautifully. I don't feel safe in my own home anymore. She was in our bedroom, going through my things. The necklace you gave me, the one you said reminded you of your mother's eyes, it's gone. Nikolai's jaw tightened. His arms wrapped around Victoria automatically, but his eyes stayed fixed on Elena, cold, unreadable, already judging. Elena opened her mouth to speak, but the words died in her throat. She had seen that look before. She had seen it 2 years ago when Nikolai fired his previous driver for suspected disloyalty. The man had vanished from Boston the next day. No one knew what happened to him. Mr. Volkov, please. Elena forced the words out. Please let me explain. I didn't take anything. I would never. Quiet. One word. Soft as a whisper, sharp as a blade. Elena's voice stopped like someone had pressed a hand over her mouth. Nikolai didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Power radiated from him like heat from a furnace. The kind of power that could end lives with a nod. His mind flashed through the past months. Victoria's voice at dinner. She's too close to the girls, don't you think? They barely listen to me anymore. Victoria in bed beside him. I saw her staring at my jewelry box again. It made me uncomfortable. Victoria's constant whispers, dripping like poison into his ear, drop by drop. The seeds had been planted long ago. Tonight was simply the harvest. Mr. Volkov. Elena tried again, desperation cracking her composure. The girls, Sophia and Anna, they know me. They know I would never. Don't you dare speak their names. Nikolai released Victoria and stepped toward Elena. Each step was measured, deliberate, the walk of a predator closing in. You come into my home. You earn my trust. You take care of my children. His voice was terrifyingly calm. And this is how you repay me? By stealing from my family? I didn't steal anything. Elena's voice rose with desperation. Search my room. Search everything I own. I have nothing. Enough. Nikolai reached into his jacket and pulled out his wallet. He counted bills without looking, hundreds, maybe thousands, and threw them at Elena's feet. The money scattered across the Persian rug like fallen leaves. There's your severance. His eyes were granite. Pick it up and get out. You have 10 minutes to leave this property. He turned away. And Elena? He paused at Victoria's side, not bothering to look back. If you go anywhere near my daughters, I will personally make sure you regret it for the rest of your very short life. Elena stared at the money scattered at her feet. $100 bills. Dozens of them. Lying on the antique Persian rug like trash thrown to a beggar. More money than she had seen in months. Enough to pay for Ivan's dialysis treatments. Enough to keep him alive for another 4 weeks while they waited for a kidney donor. Her brother's face flashed in her mind. Gray skin. Sunken cheeks. The tubes running in and out of his arms. His weak voice on the phone just yesterday. Don't worry about me, Lena. Focus on your job. I'll be fine. He was lying. They both knew he was dying. Pick it up, a voice whispered inside her. Swallow your pride. Ivan needs this money. He needs you to survive. Elena's hands trembled inside the yellow rubber gloves. Her knees wanted to buckle. Every practical instinct screamed at her to kneel down, gather the bills, and walk away with something rather than nothing. But then another memory surfaced. She was 8 years old. Standing in the corner of the orphanage dormitory, the head matron had accused her of stealing bread from the kitchen. Elena hadn't stolen anything, another girl had done it and blamed her. But no one believed the quiet orphan with no parents to defend her. Admit it, the matron had demanded, holding a wooden ruler. Admit you're a thief, and the punishment will be lighter. Elena had looked up at the woman towering over her. She had felt the fear crawling up her spine, but something else had risen too, something harder than fear. I didn't steal anything. the 8-year-old Elena had said. I won't lie just because it's easier. The ruler had come down hard, again and again, but Elena never admitted to a crime she didn't commit. 20 years later, that same steel lived in her bones. She lifted her head. Her eyes met Nikolai's. He had already turned away, his arm around Victoria's shoulders, but Elena spoke anyway. Her voice was quiet, steady, cutting through the thick silence of the study. I don't need your dirty money, Mr. Volkov. Nikolai paused, half-turned. I won't pick it up because I am not a thief, and one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, you will realize the mistake you've made. Elena's voice cracked but didn't break. Not for my sake. I don't matter, but for Sofia and Anna. They deserve to know the truth about the woman you're bringing into their lives. Victoria's perfectly painted face twitched. Just for a moment, a flicker of something dark behind her eyes. Nikolai said nothing. His jaw remained set like stone. Elena turned and walked toward the door. She didn't look back at the money. She didn't look back at the man who had just destroyed her life without a second thought. In the hallway, a maid stood holding a battered blue suitcase. Elena's suitcase, already packed, waiting by the service entrance as if this had been planned long before the accusation. Because it had been. Elena took the suitcase handle. The wheels squeaked against the marble floor as she walked toward the front door. She was almost there when the click of heels echoed behind her. Leaving so soon? Victoria's voice was silk and venom. Elena turned. Victoria stood blocking the main entrance, a fresh glass of wine in her hand, her smile wide and triumphant. The mask had finally fallen. Victoria's smile was no longer beautiful. It was the smile of a snake right before it strikes. All pretense of tears had vanished. The trembling victim act had disappeared like morning fog. What remained was something cold, calculating, and utterly without mercy. You actually thought you could win, didn't you? Victoria laughed softly, swirling her wine. The noble little nanny, working herself to the bone for 2 children who aren't even hers. How pathetic. Elena gripped her suitcase handle tighter. You planned this from the beginning. Of course I did. Victoria stepped closer, her heels clicking against the marble like a death march. You were the only obstacle, Elena. The only thing standing between me and everything I deserve. Obstacle to what? They're just children. Exactly. Victoria's eyes flashed with genuine hatred. Children. Noisy, needy, clingy little reminders of his dead wife. Do you know what it's like to compete with a ghost? To have those brats look at me with her eyes and reject everything I do? She spat the words like poison. They love you more than me. They run to you when they're scared. They call you Mama Lena, while they can barely stand to be in the same room with me. Victoria's composure cracked for a moment, revealing the festering jealousy beneath. Well, that ends today. Elena felt ice spreading through her veins. What are you going to do to them? Tomorrow morning, they'll be on a plane to Switzerland. Victoria smiled again, her control restored. Street Moritz Academy, a lovely boarding school in the Alps. Very exclusive, very far away. They accept children as young as 5. No. Elena's voice was a whisper of horror. They're too young. They'll be terrified. They'll survive. Or they won't. Either way, they'll be out of my hair. Victoria examined her manicure casually. Without you here to protect them, Nikolai won't last a week. He doesn't know how to handle their crying, their nightmares, their constant neediness. He'll sign the enrollment papers by Friday. Elena's heart pounded against her ribs. She thought of Sofia, who still woke up screaming from nightmares about her mother's accident. She thought of Anna, who was allergic to peanuts and needed someone to check every food label. They'll tell him, Elena said desperately. They'll tell him what you're really like. Victoria laughed a cruel, delighted sound. You think I haven't prepared for that? She leaned in close, her perfume overwhelming. I've been training them for months. Every time they cried for their mother, I locked them in the closet until they stopped. Every time they complained about me, I pinched them where the bruises wouldn't show, and I always reminded them, if they ever told their father, I would send them somewhere they'd never see him again. Elena's blood turned to fire. You monster. She dropped her suitcase and lunged toward the hallway. She had to tell Nikolai. He had to know what kind of creature he was inviting into his children's lives. But Victoria was faster. She grabbed Elena's arm and shoved her backward with surprising strength. Elena stumbled, catching herself against the doorframe. He won't believe you. Victoria's voice was ice. You're just the help, a servant who got caught stealing. I'm his fiancée, the woman he shares his bed with. Who do you think he'll trust? Mr. Volkov, Elena screamed down the hallway. Please, listen to me. Your daughter's footsteps. Nikolai appeared at the end of the corridor. He saw Elena, wild-eyed, screaming, gripping the door frame, and he saw Victoria pressed against the wall, hand over her heart, face twisted in fear. "She's threatening me," Victoria whimpered. "Nikolai, please, make her leave." Nikolai's expression hardened into granite. "Marcus." His voice echoed through the mansion. "Get her out. Now." 2 security guards appeared. Strong hands gripped Elena's arms. "The children!" Elena screamed as they dragged her toward the door. "She's going to hurt the children." The heavy oak door swung open. Elena was thrown onto the front steps, her suitcase tumbling after her. The door slammed shut. The lock clicked, and Elena stood alone in the afternoon sun, wearing soap-stained clothes and yellow rubber gloves, with nothing but a battered suitcase and the echo of her own desperate screams. The yellow school bus stopped at the iron gates of the Volkov mansion at exactly 3:45 in the afternoon, 20 minutes after Elena had been thrown out. Sophia climbed down the bus steps first, clutching a piece of paper against her chest. Anna followed right behind, her backpack bouncing as she jumped to the ground. Both girls wore matching navy blue uniforms with white collars, their dark hair pulled back in braids that Elena had woven that very morning. "Hurry up!" Anna grabbed her sister's hand. "I want to show Mama Lena before snack time." They ran up the driveway, past the rose bushes, past the marble fountain, their small feet pounding against the cobblestones. Sophia held up her drawing a family portrait done in bright crayons. 4 figures stood under a smiling yellow sun. Papa with his serious face, Sophia and Anna holding hands, and Mama Lena in her blue uniform, standing right in the middle like she belonged there. Because she did belong there. Anna pushed open the side door that led to the kitchen, the door Mama Lena always left unlocked for them. "Mama Lena, we're home." Silence. The kitchen was empty. No warm cookies cooling on the counter. No pot of soup bubbling on the stove. No soft Russian lullaby playing from Elena's little radio. The air felt wrong. Cold. Like something had been ripped away. "Mama Lena?" Sophia's voice trembled. The girls searched the house. They checked the laundry room, the playroom, the garden. They ran up the stairs and knocked on Elena's bedroom door. No answer. They pushed it open. The room was empty. The bed was stripped bare. The closet stood open, hangers swinging in the draft. "She's gone," Sophia whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "Anna, she's gone." "No." Anna shook her head stubbornly. She wouldn't leave without saying goodbye. She promised she'd never leave us like Mama did. Then they heard voices, coming from Papa's bedroom down the hall. The girls crept closer. The door was slightly open. Without thinking, they slipped inside and crawled under the massive bed, hiding behind the dust ruffle that hung to the floor. Victoria's voice drifted down to them, sweet as honey, sharp as knives. "Darling, I know it's difficult, but think about it rationally. Without that woman here, who's going to manage them? You're working 18-hour days. I have charity events and wedding planning. We simply don't have time for their constant demands. They're my daughters." Papa's voice sounded tired. So tired. "They're only 5 years old. Maybe we should hire another nanny, another stranger in our home? After what just happened?" Victoria laughed bitterly. "Besides, Street, Moritz is the finest boarding school in Europe. They'll learn French, skiing, piano. They'll be with children of royalty and diplomats. It's an opportunity most families would kill for." Under the bed, Sophia's hand found Anna's, their fingers intertwined, squeezing tight. "I don't know, Victoria. They're so young. That's exactly why this is the perfect time." Victoria's voice turned soft, persuasive. "They'll adapt quickly at this age, and we need this, Nikolai. We need space to build our new life together, our own family. These first years of marriage should be about us, not about managing 2 grieving children who refuse to accept me." A long pause. Sophia pressed her face into the carpet to muffle her crying. Anna bit her lip so hard she tasted blood. "I'll think about it," Papa finally said. "Think quickly, my love. The enrollment deadline is tomorrow." Footsteps crossed the room. The bedroom door opened and closed. Silence returned. Under the bed, 2 5-year-old girls lay in the darkness, tears streaming down their faces, their small bodies shaking with silent sobs. Switzerland, a place with no Papa, no Mama Lena, just strangers and cold mountains and loneliness forever. Anna turned her head toward her sister. Her eyes were red, but something fierce burned behind the tears. "We have to find Mama Lena," she whispered. "She'll know what to do. She always protects us." Sophia nodded, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "But how? The doors are locked. The guards won't let us out." Anna looked toward the window. "Then we'll find another way." The girls crawled out from under the bed the moment they heard Victoria's heels clicking down the staircase. Anna moved first. She always moved first. The braver twin. The louder one. The one who punched Tommy Wilson in kindergarten for pulling Sophia's hair. Come on. She grabbed her sister's hand. We have to go now. Before she gets too far, they crept down the hallway toward their own bedroom. The house felt like a prison now. Every shadow seemed threatening. Every closed door hid a monster. In their room, Anna ran to the window and looked down at the front gate. Far in the distance, almost at the corner of the street, she could see a small figure in blue dragging a suitcase. There she is. Anna pressed her face against the glass. She's leaving. Sophia, she's really leaving. Sophia joined her at the window. Her lower lip trembled. Maybe we should tell Papa. Maybe if we explain, he didn't listen to Mama Lena. He won't listen to us. Anna's voice was hard for a 5-year-old. Hard and certain. Victoria will just say we're lying. She always does. Sophia looked at the bedroom door. But how do we get out? The front door has the special code. Marcus is guarding the back. We're trapped. Anna's eyes swept across the room. They landed on the window. Not trapped. She pointed at the glass. We go out there. Anna, no. Sophia grabbed her arm. It's too high. We'll get hurt. The rose bushes are right below. They'll catch us. Anna was already pushing a chair toward the window. Remember when Mama Lena's cat fell from the balcony? She landed in the bushes and she was fine. That was a cat. We're not cats. We're small. It's almost the same thing. Sophia's eyes filled with fresh tears. I'm scared, Anna. What if we get caught? What if Victoria finds out? She'll lock us in the closet again. Anna stopped. She turned and took her sister's face in her small hands. If we don't do this, we'll lose Mama Lena forever. Her voice shook but didn't break. Just like we lost Mama. And then Victoria will send us away, and we'll never see Papa again. Is that what you want? Sophia shook her head. Then we have to be brave, like Mama Lena taught us. Anna climbed onto the chair and examined the window. It was locked. The latch was too stiff for her small fingers. Her eyes fell on the wooden horse sitting on the bookshelf. A hand-carved carousel horse, painted white with a golden mane. The last birthday present their mother had given them before the accident. Anna's heart twisted. I'm sorry, Mama, she whispered. She grabbed the horse and swung it against the window with all her strength. Crack. The glass splintered but didn't break. She swung again. Harder. Crash. The window shattered outward, shards exploding into the afternoon air. Some pieces fell inside, scattering across the carpet like deadly snowflakes. Now, climb through, Anna shouted. Sophia went first. She gripped the window frame and pulled herself up. A jagged edge of glass sliced across her calf. She cried out but didn't stop. She tumbled through the opening and fell. 2 stories down, into the rose bushes. Thorns tore at her clothes, her skin, her hair. But the branches held her, cushioned her fall, kept her bones from breaking. Sophia! Anna screamed from above. I'm okay! Come on! Anna climbed through the broken window. Glass cut into her palms, her fingers, leaving trails of red across the white frame. She didn't care. She pushed herself through and jumped. The fall lasted forever. The rose bushes caught her with thorny arms, scratching and stabbing, but slowing her descent. She hit the ground hard. Pain shot up her left ankle. Get up! Sophia was already running. The alarm, a high-pitched wail, split the air. The security system had detected the broken window. The girls ran. Through the garden, past the fountain, toward the front gate. By some miracle, the gate was open. A delivery truck was just pulling away, and the driver had forgotten to close it behind him. The twins burst through the opening and onto the cobblestone street of Beacon Hill. Blood streamed from their hands. Their uniforms were torn. Their legs were covered in scratches and cuts. But they didn't stop. They couldn't stop. At the end of the street, the figure in blue was about to turn the corner and disappear forever. Mama Lena! Their screams echoed off the elegant brownstones, shattering the peaceful afternoon. Behind them, inside the mansion, Nikolai Volkov heard the alarm and the screaming. He ran to the window just in time to see his daughters sprinting down the middle of the street, blood trailing behind them like ribbons of red. His heart stopped. Elena heard her name before she understood what was happening. Mama Lena! The scream cut through her fog of despair like a blade. She had been walking in a daze, dragging her suitcase, her mind numb with shock and grief. But that voice, those voices pulled her back to reality with brutal force. She turned, and the world stopped spinning. Sophia and Anna were running toward her, in the middle of the street. Their small bodies pumping forward with desperate speed. Blood covered their hands. Their uniforms were torn and stained. Their faces were streaked with tears and terror. "Mama Lena, don't go." Elena's suitcase fell from her hand. She didn't hear it hit the ground, because she heard something else, the roar of an engine. A black SUV was coming around the curve at the far end of the street, moving fast, too fast for a residential neighborhood. The driver was looking at his phone, not at the road, not at the two 5-year-old girls standing directly in his path. Time fractured into 1,000 frozen pieces. Elena saw the SUV. She saw her girls. She calculated the distance, the speed, the impossible math of trajectory and momentum. There was no time to think. There was only time to run. She launched herself forward. Her legs moved faster than they had ever moved in her life. Her lungs burned. Her heart screamed. The yellow rubber gloves were still on her hands she hadn't even noticed until now, and they made her arms feel strange as they pumped through the air. 50 feet, 40, 30. Behind the children, she could see Nikolai sprinting from the mansion gates. His face was a mask of pure terror. His expensive shoes slapped against the cobblestones. His arms reached forward as if he could somehow stretch across the distance and grab his daughters. But he was too far. He wouldn't make it. 20 feet. The SUV's horn blared. The driver had finally looked up. Tires screeched against the pavement, but physics was unforgiving. 3,000 pounds of steel couldn't stop in time. 10 feet. Elena could see the whites of Anna's eyes. She could see the blood dripping from Sophia's fingers. She could smell the burning rubber of the SUV's brakes. 5 feet. She dove, her arms wrapped around both girls at once, scooping them against her chest like a mother bird gathering her chicks. She twisted her body mid-air, turning so that her back would take the impact instead of theirs. They hit the ground. Hard. Elena's shoulder slammed into the sidewalk first, then her hip, then her back scraped across the concrete as momentum carried them forward. Rolling, tumbling, a tangle of limbs and blood and desperate protection. The SUV roared past, missing them by inches. The wind from its passage whipped Elena's hair across her face. Then silence. For a moment, no one moved. Elena lay on the sidewalk, her body curled around the twins like a shell. Her back was on fire. She could feel the wetness of blood, hers or theirs. She didn't know, soaking through her uniform. Every nerve screamed with pain, but she didn't let go. "Mama Lena," Anna's voice was muffled against her chest. "Mama Lena, you came back." "Shh." Elena kissed the top of her head, then Sophia's. "I'm here. I've got you. I've got you both." Footsteps approached, heavy, running. Elena looked up. Nikolai stood 3 feet away. He wasn't moving anymore. He had stopped mid-stride, his chest heaving, his face drained of all color. He stared down at the scene before him with an expression Elena had never seen on the face of the most powerful mafia boss on the East Coast. Shock, confusion, and the first, terrible crack of doubt. The woman he had just thrown out like garbage was lying on the concrete, bleeding, bruised, still wearing those ridiculous yellow gloves, and she was using her own body as a shield to protect his children. The shock lasted only a moment. Then rage took over. Nikolai lunged forward and grabbed Anna by the arm, yanking her away from Elena. He pulled Sophia with his other hand, dragging both girls behind him like he was rescuing them from a burning building. "What did you do to them?" His voice was a roar that echoed off the elegant brownstones. "What the hell did you do to my children?" Elena pushed herself up from the sidewalk. Her palms were bleeding. Her back felt like someone had taken a cheese grater to it. But she didn't care about any of that. She only cared about the blood pouring from Anna's hands. "They're hurt." Elena's voice was hoarse. "Their hands, the cuts are deep. They need, stay away from them." Nikolai positioned himself between Elena and the girls, his body a wall of fury and protection. "You did this. You kidnapped them. You were trying to take them, Papa." "No." Anna tried to pull free from his grip. "She didn't do anything. We ran to her. We quiet." Nikolai's voice was sharp. "I'll deal with you later. Right now, I need to understand what this woman did to you." Elena ignored him. She dropped to her knees on the sidewalk and reached past Nikolai toward Anna's injured hand. He tried to block her, but she was faster. "The glass went deep," Elena murmured, examining the wound. "She needs stitches. Pressure first, or she'll lose too much blood." Without hesitation, Elena gripped the hem of her navy uniform and tore. The fabric ripped with a sharp sound. She wrapped the strip around Anna's palm, pulling tight, creating a makeshift bandage. Anna winced but didn't cry out. "Good girl," Elena whispered. "You're so brave. Both of you are so brave." Nikolai watched in stunned silence. This woman, this thief, this criminal was kneeling on the concrete with scraped knees and a bleeding back, calmly bandaging his daughter's wounds. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. Her voice was gentle, soothing, the voice of someone who had done this 100 times before, the voice of a mother. "Boss!" Marcus came running down the street, 2 other guards behind him. His face was flushed, his breathing heavy. "Boss, we found the broken window. The girls, they broke through the glass to get out." The alarm triggered when he stopped, taking in the scene. Elena on the ground, the children covered in blood. His employer standing frozen like a statue. What happened here? Nikolai didn't answer. He was looking at Sophia, the quiet twin, the one who rarely spoke, who always hid behind her sister. She was staring at Elena with tears streaming down her face, her small body trembling. But she wasn't afraid of Elena. She was reaching for her. "Mama Lena," Sophia whimpered, her arms outstretched. "It hurts. Make it stop hurting." Elena opened her arms. Sophia flew into them, burying her face against Elena's chest, sobbing uncontrollably. And Elena held her, rocked her, stroked her hair with blood-stained fingers. "I know, sweetheart. I know it hurts, but you're going to be okay. I promise." Nikolai felt something shift in his chest, a crack in the wall of certainty he had built. This didn't make sense. None of this made sense. "Boss." Marcus stepped closer, his voice low. The girls broke the window themselves. They jumped from the 2nd floor. Elena didn't take them. They ran after her. Before Nikolai could respond, Anna pulled herself free from his loosened grip. She planted her small feet on the ground and looked up at her father with eyes blazing with fury and pain. "Papa, you made a mistake." Her voice was loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. "Mama Lena didn't steal anything. She would never steal. She loves us. Anna Victoria is the bad one," Anna screamed, her entire body shaking. "She's the one who lies. She's the one who hurts us. Mama Lena is the only one who protects us, and you threw her away like garbage." The street fell silent. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. Then Sophia spoke, the quiet twin, the one who hid behind her sister, the one who hadn't spoken more than 10 words at a time since her mother died 2 years ago. "I saw her." Her voice was small, trembling, but in the silence of the street, every syllable rang clear as a church bell. Nikolai turned to look at his daughter. "Sophia, what I saw Victoria take the necklace." Sophia pulled back from Elena's embrace just enough to look at her father. Her eyes were red and swollen, but they held steady. "This morning, before school, I was hiding in the closet because I was scared Victoria would find me." Nikolai's face went pale. "Hiding? Why were you hiding?" "Because Victoria hurts me when nobody's looking." The words hit Nikolai like bullets. He staggered back a step. "She opened her jewelry box," Sophia continued, her voice gaining strength from Elena's arms around her. "She took out the diamond necklace. The one you gave her." She laughed and put it in her pocket. Anna jumped in, her voice fierce despite her pain. Then Victoria went to Mama Lena's room. We followed her. We saw her put the necklace in Mama Lena's bag, the beige one that hangs behind the door. "Why didn't you tell me?" Nikolai's voice cracked. "Why didn't you come to me immediately?" "We tried," Anna shouted. "We tried so many times. But Victoria always knows. She said if we ever told you anything, she would send us far away, to a place where we'd never see you again. She said she'd make sure you forgot about us completely." Sophia reached down and pulled up her sleeve. Nikolai felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Purple bruises circled his daughter's thin arm, finger-shaped marks, some fresh, some fading yellow. A map of hidden abuse drawn across her innocent skin. "She pinches us here," Sophia whispered. "Where the clothes cover, so you never see." Nikolai dropped to his knees. The most powerful mafia boss on the East Coast fell to the concrete like a puppet with cut strings. His hands shook as he reached for Sophia's arm, as if afraid to touch the evidence of his own blindness. "There's more," Anna said quietly. "When we cry for Mama at night, Victoria locks us in the closet, the dark one in the hallway. She says we're not allowed to come out until we stop being crybabies. She told us Mama died because we were bad," Sophia added, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "She said Mama's accident was our fault, because we were too loud, too needy. She said that's why Mama was driving so fast that night, to get away from us." Nikolai made a sound, not a word, just a sound, like something inside him was breaking. "Papa," Sophia reached out and touched her father's face with her small, bloody hand. "Mama Lena smells like Mama used to, warm, like cookies and soap and safety. When Mama Lena hugs us, the scared feeling goes away." She paused. "Victoria smells cold, like perfume that burns my nose. When Victoria is near, the scared feeling comes. Every time." Nikolai couldn't breathe. He looked at Elena, still kneeling on the sidewalk, still holding his children. She hadn't said a single word in her own defense. She had simply tended to their wounds and let the truth speak for itself. Then he looked up, toward the mansion, toward the second-floor window. Victoria stood there, watching, a glass of wine in her hand. Her expression was calm, untroubled, as if she were observing a mildly interesting television program. She raised the glass to her lips and took a slow sip. She smiled, and Nikolai Volkov, the ghost of Boston, finally saw the monster he had invited into his home. The memories hit Nikolai like a freight train. 2 years of moments he had ignored. 2 years of signs he had refused to see. They flooded his mind now, each one a knife twisting deeper into his chest, Sophia flinching whenever Victoria entered the room. He had told himself she was just shy, just adjusting. Anna going silent at dinner when Victoria sat down. He had assumed she was tired from school, the way both girls always positioned themselves behind Elena, using her body as a shield. He had thought it was just attachment, normal behavior for children who had lost their mother. He remembered Elena standing in the doorway of the playroom, arms crossed, placing herself between Victoria and the twins. He had dismissed it as overprotectiveness, as a nanny overstepping her boundaries. He remembered Victoria's constant whispers in his ear. The children are too attached to her. She's trying to replace their mother. I think she looks at my jewelry when she thinks no one is watching. You should consider letting her go before she becomes a problem. Drip, 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 poison, administered in tiny doses over months and months, and he had swallowed every drop. He remembered the last time he had seen his daughters truly laugh. It was 3 months ago. Elena had been teaching them to make blini in the kitchen. The 3 of them were covered in flour, giggling like the world held no darkness at all. Victoria had walked in. The laughter stopped instantly. The girls' faces went blank. Elena stepped in front of them automatically, like a reflex. He had noticed and done nothing. Now Nikolai looked at the scene before him with new eyes. Elena knelt on the concrete sidewalk. Her back was scraped raw, visible through the torn fabric of her uniform. Blood seeped from cuts on her palms. Her navy dress was stained with dirt and her children's blood. She had not said a single word in her own defense. Not one. She was too busy checking Sophia's scratches, too busy adjusting the bandage on Anna's hand, too busy whispering reassurances and stroking their hair. Then he looked up at the mansion. Victoria still stood at the window, still watching, still sipping her wine. She had not come outside. She had not run to check on the children. She had not shown even a flicker of concern. 2 women. One had thrown herself in front of a speeding car to save his daughters. The other couldn't be bothered to set down her drink. The truth was so simple, so obvious, so devastating. He had driven out the angel and kept the devil. Nikolai's legs moved without conscious thought. He walked toward Elena and dropped to his knees before her. The great ghost of Boston, kneeling on a public sidewalk, surrounded by blood and broken glass. Elena. His voice came out broken, fractured. The voice of a man whose entire world had just collapsed. Elena. I didn't know. I didn't see. I should have. He couldn't finish. The words tangled in his throat, choking him. Elena looked up. Her eyes met his. There was no triumph in her gaze. No accusation. No satisfaction at being proven right. There was only exhaustion and concern. Concern not for herself, but for the children still clinging to her. Later, Elena said quietly, "We can talk about everything later. Right now, Anna's hand needs stitches. The cuts are deep. She's losing blood." She stood, lifting Sophia with her despite her own injuries. Anna held onto her other hand. "Your daughters need a doctor, Mr. Volkov. Everything else can wait." Nikolai stared at her. Even now, even after everything he had done to her, she was still putting his children first. He had never felt so small in his entire life. The procession that walked back to the Volkov mansion was nothing like the scene from 30 minutes earlier. Nikolai led the way. His steps were heavy, deliberate, each footfall carrying the weight of his guilt. Behind him came Elena, carrying Anna in her arms despite her own injuries. The little girl had wrapped her arms around Elena's neck and buried her face against her shoulder, refusing to let go. Sophia walked beside them, her small fingers intertwined with Elena's, gripping tight as if afraid she might disappear again. Marcus and the other guards followed at a distance, exchanging uncertain glances. The battered blue suitcase lay abandoned in the middle of the cobblestone street. No one looked back at it. No one cared. They climbed the front steps of the mansion. Victoria was waiting inside. She stood at the bottom of the grand staircase, her hand resting elegantly on the marble banister. Her face had transformed into a mask of concern. Worried eyes, trembling lips, the performance of a loving future stepmother. "Oh my God," Victoria rushed forward, arms outstretched. The girls, are they okay? What happened? I was so worried I saw them running and I didn't know what to do. Nikolai walked past her. He didn't slow down. He didn't acknowledge her existence. He simply moved through the space she occupied as if she were made of air. Victoria froze mid-step, her arms still extended toward nothing. Nikolai? Darling? He didn't answer. Elena followed him into the living room. The grand space with its crystal chandelier and silk curtains felt different now, less like a palace, more like a crime scene. Put them on the sofa, Nikolai said quietly. His voice was flat. Empty. Elena lowered Anna gently onto the cream-colored cushions. Sophia immediately climbed up beside her sister, pressing close. Neither girl let go of Elena's hands. Nikolai pulled out his phone. Dr. Patterson, I need you at the house immediately. My daughters are injured. Cuts from broken glass. One may need stitches. A pause. Now. I don't care what you're doing. Now. He hung up and turned to Marcus. Bring the first aid kit. Clean towels. Warm water. Yes, boss. The room burst into controlled activity. Guards moving. Supplies appearing. Nikolai coordinating everything with the precision of a military operation. Victoria appeared in the doorway. Her face had shifted again. The concern was giving way to something harder. Something desperate. Nikolai, what is going on? Her voice was sharp now, the sweetness cracking at the edges. Why is she here? She's a thief. She stole my necklace. You threw her out yourself. Nikolai continued examining Anna's bandaged hand. Are you listening to me? Victoria stepped into the room, her heels clicking against the hardwood. She's manipulating you. She's manipulating the children. They're lying to protect her children, do that all the time. You can't possibly believe Victoria. One word, soft as silk, cold as death. Nikolai straightened and turned to face her. His eyes had changed. Victoria had seen many expressions on Nikolai Volkov's face over the past year. Desire, affection, exhaustion, even occasional frustration. But she had never seen this. This was the look he gave to enemies. This was the look that made hardened criminals beg for mercy. This was the ghost of Boston, staring at her from across the room. And for the first time since she had started this game, Victoria felt genuine fear crawling up her spine. Go to the study, Nikolai said. His voice held no anger, no heat, just ice. Sit down. Don't touch anything. Don't call anyone. Wait for me. Nikolai, please, let me explain now. The word cracked through the room like a whip. Victoria's mouth snapped shut. Her face went pale beneath her perfect makeup. She looked at Elena, at the children, at the guards who wouldn't meet her eyes. She was alone. Completely alone. Without another word, she turned and walked toward the study. Her heels echoed through the hallway like a funeral march. Dr. Patterson arrived within 15 minutes. He was a gray-haired man in his 60s, the Volkov family physician for over a decade. He had treated bullet wounds, knife cuts, and injuries that never got reported to hospitals. But tonight, his patients were 2 5-year-old girls with glass cuts and scraped knees. Anna first, Elena said as the doctor opened his medical bag. Her hand is deeper. She's lost more blood. Dr. Patterson nodded and knelt beside the sofa. He examined Anna's palm, gently unwrapping Elena's makeshift bandage. You did good work with this, he murmured. Stopped the bleeding, kept the wound clean. Anna whimpered as he prodded the cut. Shh, little star, Elena whispered, stroking her hair. Little star. Remember the song? Can you sing it with me? She began to hum softly. A Russian lullaby. Something about a nightingale and a silver moon. Anna's tense body slowly relaxed as the familiar melody washed over her. Nikolai stood 3 feet away, watching. He didn't know that song. He didn't know his daughter needed a song to stay calm during medical procedures. He didn't know she responded to Russian words. He didn't know any of it. I need to give her a local anesthetic before I stitch, Dr. Patterson said. She'll need to stay very still. Elena nodded. She shifted position, cradling Anna's head against her chest, holding her injured hand steady. It's okay, sweetheart. It will pinch for just a second, and then the hurt will go away. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. The needle went in. Anna flinched but didn't scream. Elena kept singing. When it was Sophia's turn, the quiet twin began to tremble. Her eyes went wide with panic as the doctor approached with antiseptic. I don't want a shot, she whispered. Please, I don't want. You won't need stitches, Dr. Patterson assured her. Just cleaning and bandages. But it might sting. Sophia looked at Elena with desperate eyes. Elena reached out her hand. Sophia grabbed it immediately, squeezing tight. Look at me, Elena said softly. Only at me. Tell me about your drawing. The one you made at school today. Who was in it? You, Sophia whispered, wincing as the antiseptic touched her cuts. And Papa, and Anna, and me. Was there a sun in the picture? A big yellow one, with a smiley face. That sounds beautiful. Will you show me later? Sophia nodded, her grip loosening slightly as the distraction worked. Nikolai watched every moment. He watched Elena anticipate every need, watched her know exactly which word, which touch, which song would soothe each child. She moved through their fear with the expertise of someone who had done this countless times, because she had. Every nightmare, every fever, every scraped knee and bad dream and thunderstorm terror. She had been there. He had not. When Dr. Patterson finished and began packing his supplies, Nikolai finally spoke. Elena, she looked up at him. You know my children better than I do. It wasn't a question, it was a confession. Elena's expression didn't change. No satisfaction, no accusation, just simple truth. Because I'm here, Mr. Volkov. I'm here every day. Every nightmare at 3 a.m, every meal they refuse to eat, every fear they're too scared to name. She paused, her hand still stroking Sophia's hair. Children don't need money or mansions. They need presence. They need someone who shows up. The words landed like stones on Nikolai's chest. He had nothing to say, no defense, no excuse. He was the most powerful man in Boston, and he had failed at the only job that truly mattered. The girls were asleep now, exhausted from pain and terror and emotion. They lay curled together on the sofa, their small bodies intertwined, their breathing finally peaceful. Elena tucked a cashmere throw blanket around them, smoothing it gently over their shoulders. Nikolai stood. Stay with them, he said quietly. Don't leave this room. Elena nodded. He walked toward the door, then paused. I have something to take care of. His voice was cold, final. The voice of a man who had made a decision from which there would be no return. The study door opened. Victoria sat in one of the leather armchairs, her legs crossed, her posture perfect. She had used the waiting time to compose herself. Her makeup had been touched up, her hair smoothed back into place. The mask of the elegant, wronged fiancé was firmly back in position. She even managed a small, wounded smile as Nikolai entered. Darling, finally. I've been sitting here worried sick. The children, are they all right? I wanted to help, but you seemed so upset, and I thought it best to give you space. Click. The sound of the lock engaging cut through her words. Nikolai stood with his back to the door, his hand still on the deadbolt. He didn't speak. He simply looked at her with those cold, empty eyes that had made grown men confess to crimes they hadn't committed. Victoria's smile faltered, but she pressed on. Nikolai, please, you have to listen to me. She stood, reaching toward him. Those children are lying. They've always resented me for not being their mother. They'll say anything to protect that woman. She's been poisoning them against me from the very beginning. Nikolai walked past her. He went to the liquor cabinet, pulled out a bottle of whiskey, and poured himself a glass. One glass. He didn't offer Victoria anything, and I know it looks bad, but if you just think about it rationally, you'll see that I'm the victim here. I've tried so hard to love those girls, but they reject everything I do. I called Dmitri. 3 words, spoken quietly, without emotion. Victoria stopped mid-sentence. I'm sorry, Dmitri. Nikolai swirled the whiskey in his glass, watching the amber liquid catch the light. My head of security. I called him while Dr. Patterson was treating the girls. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Victoria's face. Why would you? After Natasha was killed, I installed hidden cameras throughout the house. Nikolai took a slow sip of his drink. In the hallways, the kitchen, the children's rooms. He paused. The master bedroom. Victoria's face went white. You didn't know about those cameras, did you? Nikolai's voice was almost conversational, almost pleasant. The voice of a man discussing the weather. They're very small, very well hidden. Even Marcus doesn't know where all of them are. Nikolai, whatever you think you saw, I saw everything. Victoria. The words dropped into the room like stones into still water. I saw you open your jewelry box this morning. I saw you take out the necklace, the one I gave you for our engagement. I saw you laugh. His jaw tightened. I saw you walk to Elena's room and put the necklace in her bag. Victoria's mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. I also have footage from the past 6 months. Nikolai set down his glass with a soft click. You pinching Sophia when you thought no one was looking. You dragging Anna by the arm into the hallway closet. You whispering threats into their ears while they cried. Those videos could be doctored. They're not. The children provoked me. They're 5 years old. I was under stress. Enough. The single word silenced her completely. Nikolai turned to face her fully. His expression held no rage, no heat, only the cold, calculated emptiness of a man who had already decided someone's fate. The ring. Victoria's hand flew to her left hand, covering the 3-carat diamond that glittered there. Take it off. Put it on the desk. Nikolai, please now. Her fingers trembled as she pulled at the ring. It had always been slightly too tight. She had been meaning to get it resized. Now it stuck on her knuckle, refusing to budge. I can't. It won't. Then I'll have Marcus cut it off. Your choice. Victoria yanked harder. The ring scraped past her knuckle, leaving a red welt. She stared at it in her palm for a moment, then placed it on the mahogany desk with a soft click. Nikolai didn't even look at it. You have until sunrise to leave Boston. If you're still in this city when the sun comes up, you'll find out exactly why they call me the ghost. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. And Victoria, don't go to the East Coast. Don't go anywhere. I might hear your name again. Because if I do, I'll make sure it's the last time anyone hears it. The mask shattered. Everything Victoria had built, every careful smile, every calculated tear, every perfectly crafted performance crumbled in an instant. What emerged from beneath was something raw and ugly and true. Fine, she screamed, her voice cracking with rage. Fine. You want the truth? Here's your truth. She swept her arm across the desk, sending papers and a crystal paperweight crashing to the floor. Yes, I did it. All of it. I took the necklace. I framed that pathetic little servant girl. And you know what? I'd do it again. Nikolai didn't move, didn't blink. He stood like a statue carved from ice, watching her unravel. Do you have any idea what it's been like? Victoria's face twisted into something barely human. Living in this mausoleum to your dead wife? Her portrait in the hallway, her jewelry in my bedroom, her children following me everywhere with those accusing eyes, her eyes staring at me like I'm the intruder. She laughed bitterly, tears of fury streaming down her cheeks. I gave you everything, Nikolai. A year of my life. I played the loving stepmother. I smiled at your brats. I pretended to care about their stupid drawings and their nightmares about mommy. And for what? So they could run to the help every time they scraped a knee? They're children, Nikolai said quietly. My children. They're anchors, Victoria shrieked. They're chains tying you to a ghost. Natasha is dead. She's been dead for 2 years. But you won't let her go. You keep her memory alive through those 2 little copies of her face. And I'm supposed to just accept being second place forever? She stepped toward him, her finger jabbing at his chest. I wanted a fresh start. A real marriage. Our own children someday. But that was never going to happen as long as those brats were here, clinging to that nanny, rejecting everything I did. So yes, I tried to send them away. Switzerland would have been good for them, good for us. But you're too blind to see it. Nikolai caught her wrist before her finger touched his chest. His grip wasn't tight. It didn't need to be. The coldness in his eyes was enough. Are you finished? Victoria's breath caught. For the first time, she truly looked at him. Not at the wealthy fiancé who bought her diamonds and took her to galas. Not at the tired businessman who fell asleep beside her every night. At Nikolai Volkov, the ghost of Boston. The man who had built an empire on fear and blood. The man whose enemies disappeared without a trace. The man who had once been rumored to personally execute a traitor and dump the body in the harbor. That man was looking at her now, and he was smiling. It was the most terrifying smile she had ever seen. I want you to understand something, Victoria. His voice was soft, almost gentle. I'm not angry. Anger would mean I still feel something for you. I don't. He released her wrist. You're nothing to me now. Less than nothing. A mistake I made while I was grieving. A parasite I let into my home because I was too blind to see what was right in front of me. Nikolai, please. The rage had drained from her voice. Only fear remained. I'm sorry. I didn't mean we can work through this. I love you, Marcus. The study door opened. Marcus entered, flanked by 2 other guards. Escort Miss Harrington to a car. Take her to the airport. Make sure she boards the first flight to anywhere that isn't the East Coast. Yes, boss. Wait. Victoria tried to run to the desk. My ring, my things, I need my clothes, my jewelry. You came into this house with nothing. Nikolai's voice was ice. You leave with nothing. Marcus gripped her arm. She struggled, but the guards were stronger. Nikolai, you can't do this. I have rights. I'll call the police. I'll tell them everything about your business. Nikolai laughed softly. Go ahead. See how far that gets you. Victoria was still screaming threats as they dragged her down the hallway. Her designer heels scraped against the marble floor. Her perfectly styled hair came undone, falling in wild tangles around her face. The front door opened. A black SUV waited in the driveway, engine running. Victoria was shoved into the back seat. The door slammed shut, cutting off her screams. Nikolai watched from the study window as the taillights disappeared down the driveway and through the iron gates. The house fell silent. The monster was gone. Nikolai found Elena in the living room, exactly where he had left her, but he didn't enter immediately. He stood in the doorway, hidden in the shadows of the hallway, and listened. Elena was singing. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper, floating through the dim room like a gentle breeze. A Russian lullaby. Something about a mother bird and her little ones, about stars watching over sleeping children, about love that never fades. Nikolai's chest tightened. He knew that song. Natasha used to sing it. Every night, without fail. She would sit between the twins' beds and sing until their eyes closed. After she died, the song had disappeared from the house. Nikolai couldn't bear to hear it. The staff knew better than to play Russian music. The silence had been easier than the memories. But here was Elena, keeping the song alive, keeping Natasha's memory alive in a way that healed rather than hurt. The twins were curled together on the sofa, their small bodies rising and falling with peaceful breath. Their bandaged hands rested between them. Their faces, so troubled earlier, had finally relaxed into the innocence of sleep. Elena sat on the floor beside them, her back against the sofa, her head tilted so she could see their faces. She was still wearing her torn, blood-stained uniform. Her back was scraped raw. Her palms were wrapped in makeshift bandages. She looked exhausted. She looked broken. She looked like an angel. Nikolai stepped into the room. Elena's singing stopped. She turned, her body tensing instinctively, then relaxing when she saw it was him. "They're sleeping," she whispered. The pain medication Dr. Patterson gave them helped. Nikolai nodded. He walked past his usual armchair, the tall one, the one that dominated the room, and instead pulled over a small ottoman. He sat down across from Elena, putting himself at her level. Below her level, even the most powerful man in Boston, sitting on a footstool like a child awaiting judgment. "She's gone," he said quietly. "Victoria. She won't come back." Elena nodded slowly. She didn't ask for details. "Elena," Nikolai's voice cracked. He cleared his throat and tried again. "I don't know how to do this. I've never apologized to anyone in my life. Not really. Not like this." Elena remained silent, watching him. "I was wrong." The words came slowly, painfully, like pulling thorns from his own flesh. "About everything. I believed a liar over my own children. I threw out the one person who actually loved them. I let a monster into my home and gave her power over my family." He looked down at his hands that had signed death warrants, hands that had built an empire on blood and fear. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I'm asking you to stay." Elena's expression didn't change. "As your employee? No." Nikolai shook his head firmly. "Not as an employee. As a guardian. A protector. Someone with real authority, equal to mine when it comes to the girls." He leaned forward, desperate for her to understand. "I want you to have legal rights. Decision-making power. If something happens to me in my world, things happen. I want to know they'll be safe. That they'll be with someone who loves them." Elena was quiet for a long moment. "I don't need titles, Mr. Volkov," she finally said. "I don't need legal documents or authority. I just need to know that Sophia and Anna will be safe, that they'll be loved, that no one will ever hurt them again." "They will be," Nikolai promised. "I swear it on Natasha's grave." Elena studied his face, searching for something. Truth, perhaps, or sincerity. Whatever she found seemed to satisfy her, because she gave a small nod. Nikolai exhaled slowly. Then a question surfaced, one that had been nagging at him since the confrontation on the street. "Elena." He looked at her with new eyes. "Victoria said something earlier. About your brother. About a kidney transplant." Elena's face went still. "You have a brother who's dying." Nikolai's voice softened. "You've been working here for 2 years, sending every penny home, barely keeping enough to survive. And you never told me. Never asked for help. Why?" Elena's hands folded tightly in her lap. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Her eyes drifted to the sleeping twins, drawing strength from their peaceful faces. "His name is Ivan," she finally said. "He's 22, my little brother, the only family I have left in this world." Nikolai listened without interrupting. "We grew up in an orphanage in upstate New York. Our parents died in a house fire when I was 8. Ivan was only 2. He doesn't even remember them." Elena's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. "I raised him, in the orphanage, In foster homes. Everywhere. I was his mother, his father, his sister, everything. She paused, swallowing hard. We were placed with a foster family when I was 12, the Hendersons. Everyone thought they were wonderful. Church-going, respectable. Her jaw tightened. They weren't. Mr. Henderson liked to use his belt. Mrs. Henderson liked to pretend she didn't hear the screaming. Nikolai's expression darkened, but he remained silent. I took most of it. I made sure Ivan was always behind me, always protected. But one night, Mr. Henderson went too far. I still have scars on my back. Elena's voice didn't waver. She spoke of horrors, as if reciting a grocery list, a survival mechanism, perfected over many years. I reported them. We were removed. But the system doesn't reward troublemakers. After that, no family wanted us. We aged out of the system together. She looked down at her bandaged palms. Ivan worked construction to put me through community college. I got my childcare certification. Started working as a nanny. We were finally building something. Finally safe. Her voice cracked for the first time. Then 6 months ago, he collapsed at work. Stage 4 kidney failure. The doctors said he needs a transplant within 6 months, or... She couldn't finish the sentence. I tried to donate mine. We're not compatible. The transplant list is years long. Private donors cost. Elena laughed bitterly. More than I'll ever have. So I work. I save every penny. I send it all to the hospital to keep him on dialysis. To buy him more time. How much? Nikolai asked quietly. The dialysis is $3,000 a week. The transplant. If we could find a donor. Elena shook her head. 50,000. Maybe 60. It might as well be $1 million. Nikolai was already reaching for his phone. No. Elena held up her hand. Please, I'm not telling you this to ask for money. I'm telling you because you asked. Because you deserve to know who's been caring for your children. Nikolai ignored her protest. He dialed a number and pressed the phone to his ear. It rang twice before a gruff voice answered. Dmitri, I need you to find a kidney. Compatible with a 22-year-old male. Blood type. He looked at Elena. O positive, she whispered, stunned. O positive. Use every resource, every contact. Call in every favor we're owed. Money is not a factor. I want a match within the week. He paused, listening. I don't care if it's difficult. Make it happen. He ended the call and set the phone on the coffee table. Elena stared at him with wide, disbelieving eyes. I can't accept this. Her voice was barely a whisper. It's too much. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. Nikolai's voice was raw, honest. More vulnerable than Elena had ever heard it. You saved my daughters today. Not just on the street, you've been saving them for 2 years. Protecting them from a monster I invited into their lives. Loving them when their own father was too busy to notice they were suffering. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. This isn't repayment. This isn't charity. This is me finally doing what I should have done the moment I saw how much you sacrificed for this family. Elena opened her mouth to argue, but the tears came instead. They spilled down her cheeks without warning, without permission. 2 years of exhaustion, fear, and hopeless prayers breaking through the dam she had built so carefully. She cried silently, her shoulders shaking, her hands covering her face. Nikolai didn't know what to do. He had never been good with emotions, with softness, with comfort. His instinct was to fix problems with money or force, neither of which applied here. After an awkward moment, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a handkerchief. Simple white cotton, monogrammed with his initials. He held it out to her. Elena took it with trembling fingers, and for the first time in 2 years, she allowed herself to fall apart in front of another person. The twins woke up hungry. It was nearly 7 in the evening. The golden light of sunset streamed through the kitchen windows, painting everything in warm amber tones. Not the formal dining room with its crystal chandelier and 20-seat table. The kitchen, the real heart of any home. Mama Lena. Anna rubbed her eyes with her bandaged hand. I'm hungry. Can we have blini? Sophia nodded sleepily beside her. With honey. And strawberries. Elena smiled. She had changed out of her ruined uniform into a simple sweater and jeans that one of the maids had lent her. Her back still ached, but the wounds had been cleaned and bandaged properly. Blini it is, she said. She moved to the kitchen counter and began gathering ingredients. Flour, eggs, milk. The familiar rhythm of cooking soothed her raw nerves. Nikolai stood in the doorway, watching. He looked out of place in the kitchen. This was not his territory. He couldn't remember the last time he had stood in this room for more than 30 seconds. Can I help? The words came out awkward, uncertain, the voice of a man who commanded armies but didn't know how to crack an egg. Elena looked at him with surprise. Then she smiled. You can mix the batter. She handed him a wooden spoon and pointed to a large ceramic bowl. Nikolai rolled up the sleeves of his dress shirt and approached the bowl like it might attack him. Just stir until there are no lumps, Elena instructed, measuring out flour. Gently, not too fast. Nikolai stirred. Flour exploded upward. A cloud of white powder covered his face, his hair, his $5,000 shirt. He looked like a startled ghost. The twins burst out laughing. Real laughter. The kind that came from the belly, that squeezed the eyes shut and made the whole body shake. The kind of laughter that had been absent from this house for 2 years. Papa looks like a snowman, Anna giggled, pointing. A very grumpy snowman, Sophia added. Nikolai blinked through the flour. For a moment, he just stood there, white powder dripping from his eyebrows, then something shifted in his face. He laughed. It was rusty, unpracticed, the laugh of a man who had forgotten how. But it was real, I think, Elena said, fighting her own smile. Maybe you should watch first. She guided him through the process, step by step. How to pour the batter in a thin stream, how to tilt the pan so it spread evenly, how to wait for the bubbles before flipping. Gentle, she reminded him as he attempted to flip his first blini. Like you're holding something precious, like you're hugging your daughters. Nikolai's jaw tightened with concentration. He slid the spatula under the pancake and flipped. It landed perfectly. I did it, he said, genuinely surprised. Papa made a pancake, Anna cheered. His second attempt burned. His third fell apart. But by the fifth, he was producing passable blini, and the twins were too happy to care about perfection. They ate at the small breakfast table in the corner of the kitchen. No servants, no formality, just 4 people sharing a simple meal under the warm glow of pendant lights. Anna got honey all over her face. Sophia carefully arranged her strawberries in a smiley face pattern. Nikolai ate 3 blini without complaint, even the burnt one that Anna insisted he try. Papa, Sophia said quietly, her mouth full. This is nice. Nikolai looked at his daughter, really looked at her. Yes, he said softly. It is. Anna reached for another pancake, then paused. Honey dripped from her chin as she turned to look at her father with serious eyes. Papa? Yes, little one? Little one. Mama Lena is staying forever, right? Anna's voice trembled slightly. No one is going to send her away again? You promise? Nikolai set down his fork. He looked at Elena, then at his daughters, then back at Elena. No one, he said firmly, is ever going to send Mama Lena away again. I promise you. I promise on my life. Bedtime was different that night. Nikolai stood in the doorway of the twins' bedroom, holding a worn copy of Goodnight Moon. The book had belonged to Natasha. She used to read it every night, giving each character a different voice, making the girls giggle until they couldn't keep their eyes open. He hadn't touched the book since she died. Papa's going to read tonight? Anna asked, already tucked under her lavender comforter. If that's okay with you. The girls exchanged glances. Then Sophia patted the space on her bed. Sit here, Papa, so we can both see the pictures. Nikolai sat. The mattress dipped under his weight. He felt enormous and clumsy in this delicate space of stuffed animals and fairy lights. He opened the book and began to read. His voice was stiff at first, awkward. He didn't know how to do the voices like Natasha had, but the girls didn't seem to mind. They curled against him, one on each side, their small bodies warm and trusting. By the time he reached the last page, both were asleep. Elena watched from the doorway, her heart full. Nikolai kissed each daughter's forehead, pulled the blankets up to their chins, and quietly left the room. He paused beside Elena. The balcony? He asked softly. I could use some air. They walked together through the silent house and stepped out onto the second-floor balcony. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and distant city lights. Boston glittered below them, indifferent to the day's chaos. For a long while, neither spoke. The silence was comfortable, the silence of 2 people who had seen each other at their worst and didn't need to fill the space with empty words. Finally, Nikolai leaned against the railing and looked up at the stars. Natasha didn't die in a car accident. Elena turned to him, surprised. That's what we told the girls, what we told everyone. His voice was rough, distant. The truth is, she was murdered. A rival family, the Castellanos. They wanted to send me a message. His hands gripped the railing until his knuckles turned white. She was driving home from the girls' dance recital. They ran her off the road, made it look like an accident. He closed his eyes. I wasn't there. I was in a meeting, a stupid, meaningless meeting. And while I was talking numbers with accountants, my wife was dying alone on the side of the highway. Elena didn't speak. She simply stood beside him, a quiet presence in the darkness. I blamed myself, Nikolai continued. Still do. I built this empire to protect my family, and I couldn't even protect her, so I buried myself in work. In revenge, I destroyed the Castellanos piece by piece, but it didn't bring her back. It didn't fix anything. He laughed bitterly. And while I was busy playing the ghost, I let a monster into my home. I almost lost my daughters too, some protector I turned out to be. You made a mistake, Elena said softly. You trusted the wrong person. That doesn't make you a bad father, doesn't it? No. Elena's voice was firm. A bad father wouldn't be standing here right now, trying to do better. A bad father wouldn't have read them a bedtime story for the first time. A bad father wouldn't care. Nikolai looked at her. Really looked at her. What about you? He asked. What do you dream about, Elena? Besides saving everyone around you? Elena was quiet for a moment. I want to open a school someday, she said. A preschool for orphans. A place where children who have no one can feel safe. Where they can learn and play and just be kids. Without fear, without hunger. She smiled sadly. Probably sounds foolish. It sounds beautiful. Elena blinked, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. I mean it. Nikolai turned to face her fully. After everything you've been through, you still want to help others. That's not foolish. That's extraordinary. The moonlight caught the tears forming in Elena's eyes. She looked away quickly. We're quite a pair, aren't we? She whispered. Both broken, both trying to protect children from the pain we know too well. Maybe that's why this works, Nikolai said quietly. Maybe broken people understand each other better. He reached out and took her hand. Not romantically, not possessively, just a simple connection. Two survivors holding on to each other in the dark. I'm going to make you a promise, Elena, and I don't make promises lightly. His eyes were steady, certain. I will never let anyone hurt those girls again. And I will never let anyone hurt you. That is the word of Nikolai Volkov. Elena squeezed his hand. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, frowning at the screen. Dmitri. Yes? Elena watched his face as he listened. His expression shifted, softened. Something like wonder crept into his eyes. You're certain? Fully compatible? A pause. Next week. Yes. Make the arrangements. All expenses covered. Everything. He ended the call and turned to Elena. They found a kidney. His voice was thick with emotion. A perfect match for Ivan. The surgery can happen next week. Spring had returned to Beacon Hill. Cherry blossoms lined the cobblestone streets, their pink petals drifting like snow in the warm breeze. The same streets that had witnessed so much pain 1 year ago now glowed with new life. In the garden of the Volkov mansion, laughter echoed through the air. You can't catch me! Anna shrieked, darting between the rose bushes. I'm going to get you. A young man chased after her, his legs still thin from months of recovery, but his face glowing with health and joy. Ivan Petrov was alive. The transplant surgery had been a complete success. After 3 months of recovery and 9 months of rebuilding his strength, he had moved into the guest house on the Volkov property. He was studying online to become a physical therapist, wanting to help others who had faced medical challenges like his own. Sophia ran alongside her uncle, giggling as they cornered Anna near the fountain. Got you! Ivan scooped Anna up and spun her around. She squealed with delight. On the terrace, Elena watched with tears in her eyes. She looked different now. No more navy uniform. No more yellow rubber gloves. Today she wore a simple white sundress that caught the spring breeze. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders. She looked younger somehow, lighter, like years of burden had finally lifted from her soul. On her left hand, a ring sparkled in the sunlight. Not a massive diamond like Victoria's gaudy stone. This ring was white gold, simple and elegant, with a small emerald at its center. The emerald matched the color of Sophia and Anna's eyes. Nikolai had chosen it himself. They had married quietly 3 months ago. No grand ceremony, no society spectacle. Just family, in the garden, with the twins as flower girls and Ivan as the best man. Ready to go? Nikolai appeared beside her, car keys in hand. He looked different too, still powerful, still commanding. But the permanent tension in his shoulders had eased. The coldness in his eyes had thawed. He still ran his empire, still commanded respect and fear in certain circles. But Sunday mornings were now sacred, reserved for making blini with his daughters, getting flour everywhere, and laughing at his own failures. Almost, Elena smiled. Let me call the children. Their SUV waited in the driveway, packed with suitcases and beach toys. Their first family vacation. A week at a private beach house in Cape Cod. No business calls, no emergencies, just sun, sand, and time together. The twins piled into the back seat, still breathless from playing. Ivan climbed in beside them, ready to serve as their entertainment coordinator for the drive. Nikolai held the passenger door open for Elena. "My lady," he said with a mock bow. She laughed and kissed his cheek before climbing in. They pulled out of the driveway and onto the cobblestone street. The same street where Elena had dragged her broken suitcase 1 year ago. The same street where 2 little girls had risked their lives to save her. "Mama Lena?" Anna's voice came from the back seat. Elena turned. "Yes, sweetheart?" Anna looked at her sister. Some silent communication passed between the twins. Then Anna spoke again, her voice small but hopeful. "Can we just call you Mama now, without the Lena part?" Sophia leaned forward, her eyes bright. "I want to call you Mama too. Is that okay?" Elena's heart stopped. She looked at Nikolai. He was watching her through the rearview mirror, his eyes soft with emotion. She turned back to the girls. "Of course you can, my darlings." Her voice broke with happiness. "Mama is here. Mama will always be here." Anna and Sophia cheered, throwing their arms around each other. Nikolai reached over and took Elena's hand. He squeezed it gently. Through the rearview mirror, he saw his family complete, his daughters laughing, his brother-in-law making silly faces, his wife wiping tears of joy from her cheeks. Not the family he had planned, not the future he had imagined. Something better. The car turned the corner and left Beacon Hill behind. The same road, the same cobblestones, but everything had changed. 1 year ago, this street had been a desert of despair for a lonely nanny, with nothing but a broken suitcase and yellow rubber gloves. Today, it was simply the road that led home. This story reminds us of profound truths about life and love. Family is not only about blood, it is about who stays when everything falls apart. It is about who protects us, who fights for us, who loves us without condition. Sometimes the people who deserve our trust the least receive it most easily. And sometimes angels walk among us wearing uniforms and rubber gloves, asking for nothing in return. Never judge someone by their position or possessions. The richest hearts often belong to those with the emptiest pockets. And remember, it is never too late to open your eyes, admit your mistakes, and choose love over pride. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss our daily stories. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. We would love to hear from you. How did this story make you feel? Have you ever witnessed love triumph over injustice? Have you ever found family in unexpected places? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your stories inspire us and connect us all. Thank you for being part of our community. We wish you good health, happiness, and peace in your daily life. May you always find warmth in the coldness, hope in the darkness, and love when you need it most. Goodbye for now, and we will see you in the next video.